The six-handle rule in the National Electrical Code, or NEC, applies to panel boards with a current rating of 400 amps or more. The rule states that no panel board of more than 400 amps shall have more than 6 overcurrent devices with circuit breakers rated at 100 amps or less installed. The purpose of this rule is to prevent the installation of excessive capacity in a panel board, which could result in overloading and electrical hazards. In a scenario where an inspector is concerned that the empty spaces in the panel board could allow for the future installation of 6 one-pole breakers, which would violate the six-handle rule, it is important to understand your rights. You are correct in arguing that the inspector should only inspect what is installed at the time of inspection. You should point out that the panel board currently has 4 3-pole 100 amp breakers installed, which is within the limits of the six-handle rule. The empty spaces are not currently occupied by any overcurrent devices, and there is no evidence to suggest that the empty spaces will be used to install additional one-pole breakers in violation of the rule. There is no specific code section that allows inspectors to fail a job based on what-ifs. The NEC requires inspectors to enforce the code based on the actual conditions present at the time of inspection. Based on the code and the facts presented, the inspector's interpretation of the six-handle rule is overly stringent. The panel board currently meets the requirements of the NEC, and the inspector should not be red tagging the job based on potential future violations. It is important to note that the inspector has the authority to require additional measures to ensure compliance with the code. If the inspector has concerns about the potential for future violations, they could request that the panel board be modified to make it impossible to install additional one-pole breakers. However, the inspector cannot simply fail a job based on speculation without providing specific evidence of a code violation. The six-handle rule is designed to prevent overloading of panel boards by limiting the number of small-capacity overcurrent devices. The rule specifically applies to panel boards rated over 400 amps. It limits the number of overcurrent devices rated 100 amps or less to no more than 6. This is to prevent too many small circuits from being installed, which could collectively overload the panel board's main breaker or busbars. The inspector's role is to assess the installation based on the current state, not hypothetical future states. Unless there is a specific code violation at the time of inspection, failing the job based on what could happen is generally not appropriate. The inspector is focusing on the potential for future violations based on empty spaces in the panel board. While anticipating potential code violations can be part of an inspector's job, it needs to be grounded in reasonable assumptions and code requirements. It's not permissible to fail an inspection based solely on speculation. There should be some reasonable indication that a violation is likely to occur. The panel board currently complies with the six-handle rule because it has 4 3-pole breakers installed. The six-handle rule pertains to the quantity of breakers rated 100 amps and less. Each 3-pole breaker counts as one overcurrent device for the purposes of this rule. The existence of empty spaces doesn't automatically constitute a violation. The inspector's concern is that someone could install 6 one-pole breakers in those spaces, thus violating the rule. This concern is based on a hypothetical future scenario. Inspectors are tasked with interpreting and enforcing the NEC, which is a complex document. Interpretations can sometimes vary, leading to disagreement. Inspectors have the authority to make judgments based on their understanding of the code. There isn't a specific code section that allows inspectors to fail a job based on what-ifs. The NEC focuses on the present condition of the electrical installation. It's not based on speculation about future modifications. The inspector's insistence on installing a 600 amp main breaker, even if not strictly required by code in this specific scenario, might stem from a general safety or best practice perspective. Main breakers provide a single point of disconnection for the entire panel board, which can be beneficial for maintenance and emergency situations. The NEC provides guidelines for electrical installations, but local jurisdictions may have amendments or additional requirements. The inspector's decision could be influenced by local interpretations or amendments to the NEC. If you disagree with an inspector's decision, there are typically processes for appealing or seeking clarification. This might involve consulting with a senior inspector or the local electrical authority. Keeping detailed records of the installation, including photos and documentation, can be helpful if you need to appeal an inspection decision. Being polite and respectful during the inspection process can also facilitate a more positive outcome. Engage in a common professional dialogue with the inspector to understand their concerns and explain your reasoning. Code interpretations can sometimes be subjective, and open communication can help resolve disagreements. If the inspector is concerned about future violations, you could offer to install fillers or barriers in the empty spaces to prevent the installation of additional breakers. This might address the inspector's concerns and demonstrate your commitment to code compliance. The inspector's role is to ensure the safety of the electrical installation in compliance with the NEC. While it can be frustrating to incur additional costs or delays due to inspection requirements, it's important to remember that the ultimate goal is to protect people and property from electrical hazards. The 6-handle rule is intended to prevent overfusing and overloading of panel boards. By limiting the number of small breakers, it reduces the risk of excessive current draw on the panel board's busbars. The rule is applicable in situations where a panel board serves multiple circuits, particularly in residential or commercial settings. In industrial applications, the panel board design and load calculations might be more closely scrutinized to ensure safety and compliance. The NEC is updated every 3 years, so it's essential to stay informed about the latest code changes and interpretations. Changes in technology and industry practices can lead to revisions in the code. Continuing education courses and professional development opportunities can help electricians and inspectors stay up to date. Consulting with a qualified electrical engineer can provide expert guidance on complex electrical installations and code compliance issues. An engineer can perform calculations and provide documentation to support the design and installation. The inspector's concern could also stem from the panel board's listing and labeling. The panel board's listing might specify limitations on the types and quantities of breakers that can be installed. Reviewing the panel board's documentation can help clarify any restrictions or requirements. If the panel board is not listed for the intended application, it could be a basis for the inspector to fail the job. The listing ensures that the panel board has been tested and certified to meet safety standards. The inspector's decision might also be influenced by the overall condition of the electrical installation. If there are other code violations or safety concerns, the inspector might be more inclined to scrutinize the panel board installation. Addressing any outstanding issues can help improve the chances of passing the inspection. The inspector is tasked with protecting the public from electrical hazards. Their decisions are based on their professional judgment and their interpretation of the NEC and local regulations. While disagreements can occur, it's important to respect the inspector's authority and work collaboratively to resolve any concerns. The cost of installing a main breaker, while initially frustrating, could be a worthwhile investment in terms of safety and convenience. A main breaker provides a readily accessible means of disconnecting the entire panel board in case of emergency or maintenance. The 6-handle rule is not intended to restrict the total number of circuits in a building. It only applies to the number of overcurrent devices within a single panel board. Multiple panel boards can be used to accommodate a larger number of circuits. The panel board's ampacity rating is a crucial factor in determining its suitability for the intended load. The total load connected to the panel board should not exceed its ampacity rating. Proper load calculations are essential for ensuring that the panel board is not overloaded. The inspector's concerns about future violations could be addressed by providing documentation demonstrating that the intended load on the panel board is within its capacity and that future expansion will be properly planned and executed. The inspector might also be concerned about the accessibility of the breakers in the panel board. The NEC requires that breakers be readily accessible so that they can be easily operated and maintained. Overcrowding of the panel board can impede accessibility. The inspector's decision might also be influenced by the workmanship of the electrical installation. Sloppy wiring or improper connections can raise concerns about safety and code compliance. Paying attention to detail and ensuring high-quality workmanship can help avoid inspection failures. The inspector is essentially trying to ensure that the electrical system is safe and reliable, not just for the present but also for the future. While it might seem overly cautious in some cases, their goal is to prevent potential problems from arising. The process of electrical inspection is an important part of ensuring the safety of buildings and their occupants. By understanding the code requirements and working collaboratively with inspectors, electricians can help create safer electrical systems. If the inspector is adamant about requiring specific modifications, it's important to obtain a written explanation of the reasons for the requirement, including specific code references. This documentation can be helpful if you need to appeal the decision or seek clarification from a higher authority. The six-handle rule is a specific provision within the NEC, but it reflects a broader principle of electrical safety, which is to prevent overloading and ensure proper overcurrent protection. Understanding the underlying principles can help electricians and inspectors make informed decisions. The inspector's decision might also be influenced by the history of electrical work in the building. If there have been previous code violations or safety concerns, the inspector might be more vigilant in their inspections. Maintaining a good track record can help build trust with inspectors. The goal of the electrical inspection process is not to create unnecessary obstacles but to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained in a safe and code-compliant manner. By working collaboratively and understanding the inspector's perspective, electricians can help achieve this goal. The six-handle rule is intended to simplify the process of disconnecting power to a large panel board in an emergency. By limiting the number of breakers that need to be switched off, it reduces the risk of confusion or error. The inspector is essentially acting as a gatekeeper, ensuring that the electrical system meets the minimum safety standards before it is put into service. While their decisions might sometimes seem inconvenient, their role is crucial for protecting public safety. The installation of a main breaker provides an additional layer of protection against overloads and short circuits. It can also facilitate maintenance and repairs by allowing the entire panel board to be de-energized quickly and easily. The inspector's decision might also be influenced by the type of building or occupancy. Certain types of buildings, such as hospitals or schools, might have more stringent electrical requirements. Understanding the specific requirements for the building type can help ensure compliance. The inspector's role is to ensure that the electrical installation meets the applicable codes and standards regardless of the cost or inconvenience. Their primary responsibility is to protect the safety of the building and its occupants. The six-handle rule is one of many provisions in the NEC that are designed to prevent electrical hazards. By adhering to these rules, electricians can help create safer electrical systems. The inspector's decision might also be influenced by the availability of qualified electricians and inspectors in the area. In areas where there is a shortage of qualified personnel, inspectors might be more vigilant in their inspections to compensate for the lack of resources. The goal of the electrical inspection process is to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained in a safe and reliable manner, protecting people and property from electrical hazards.